Hi guys, I wanted to start by thanking you for your time recently on the workshop. I'm sorry this video is a little bit slower getting to you than it was on the previous workshop follow-up. A couple of things haven't fallen in place for me. It doesn't always go our way, does it? But we've got it done, and I'm hoping that the edit that I'm sending across now is of use to you. It's not a complete mirror of everything we covered because we covered a lot in an hour and a half, and I don't think sending you another hour and a half of content is what you need in your week, but certainly not with me banging on. But I've tried to cover what I felt was most relevant in terms of you guys going away and delivering meaningful, useful sessions around the wins process that I encourage people to use, and I certainly use myself. So if you have questions on more than one occasion throughout the video, I give you my contact details. I'm going to start by giving you my contact details now. So if you do need them, they should be here at the bottom of the screen, but I'll also share them throughout the video as well. So please use them if you have questions. It's the best way to get further forward quickly is to just ask. And it's something I was terrible at before. I never used to ask questions, and now I ask too many and talk too much. So with no further ado, let's get on to the help that I've filmed for you. Cheers, guys. Okay, so following on from our recent workshop, as promised, here's a reminder of some of the exercises that we talked about with the resistance bands. We talked about keeping it simple. I also mentioned that lower body exercises with a resistant band are more of a nice to have, bit of variety, keeping it mixed up, rather than something that's really going to make a massive impact, especially at the early stages of getting into physical activity. Our leg muscles are our biggest muscles, our lower body. Our back is also a big area of muscle, but our lower body, bum, thighs, front and back, all big muscles. So just by moving them without any extra equipment, it has a really big impact on your health, fitness and well-being. So we're going to work on the smaller muscles that are hard to reach without equipment. So the first one is a bicep. This muscle here, that's responsible for bending the arm. So every time that you bend your arm, your bicep gets involved. There's other areas get involved as well, but biceps is probably the most common. People associate that with big arms, but actually triceps, the back of the arm, which is responsible for straightening the arm, that actually has a bigger impact on how big your arms look. But I digress a little bit. So biceps, you would hold the band with an undergrasp grip. And from here, you would curl up and back down. Up and back down. Now by putting it a little bit tighter, it adds that resistance in. And I would recommend controlling the movement by holding it with both hands rather than tying the band around another item. Okay, you have more control over it if you've got hold of both ends. If you start tying it around table legs or chairs, that happening is much more likely. So hold that end tight, come up away from your face and squeeze the area that you're trying to work, which in this instance is the front of the arm, the bicep. Okay, if you've got someone strong and they're not really feeling that too much, it's a case of do more repetitions rather than trying to make it extremely tight. In this, you have options with the band. So if you have different strengths of band, fantastic. But if you're working with one strength, which I have here, which isn't the most resistance in the world, it's quite light. But if I do enough repetitions, remembering to stay away from my face, I will start to feel it eventually. So it might take 30 seconds. I might be able to go a bit quicker, so I get my heart rate up as well. But already I'm starting to feel that in the bicep. And you would do the same with the other side. So undergrasp grip, hold it tight, come across away from the face. Notice I'm always saying away from the face, so if that happens, my face is protected. So that is bicep curls. Now, a lot of the factors that I've talked about there are applicable to every exercise. So keeping it away from your face is an obvious one. And I don't mean just hold it away. Make sure that when you let go, it's not pointing at your face. Or hopefully you don't let go at all. So in terms of triceps, if we were looking to work the back of the arm, this would be a case of coming over your head. So straightening your arm, if I step back. So straightening your arm up and back down. Straighten your arm up and back down. Straighten and back down. And you can see I'm holding it in front of the body because going behind is quite difficult to get into a position. Okay. If you can get into that position, that's great. It's further away from your face and you actually get more tension. You actually get more tension in the band, but it is something that requires a bit more suppleness. You need to be more mobile in the upper body. A lot of us are desk-based or chair-based, and our upper body suffers. So getting into that position can be really challenging for some people. So by starting off in front, okay, a little bit more risk of it being near the face, but it can also limit the pressure on the shoulders if people are uncomfortable. So that's 2 exercises. We then talked about shoulders. So for shoulders, it was literally coming up to shoulder height and slowly back down. Up and back down. You can go the other way. And you could do alternates. So up one side, up the other side. Again, once you start doing about 30 seconds of that, you will feel it in the areas that you want to feel it, shoulders. So an area that's quite difficult to work is our back. We mentioned this on the workshop. Without equipment, your back, you're relying pretty much on pulling yourself up on things, which is quite tough. Even the starting level is a challenge without some real detailed modifications that we can show you, but they're not as easy to show without being with somebody. But what you can do is hold a band out in front, keeping it holding tight, come up and squeeze your shoulder blades. Keeping upright, squeeze the shoulder blades. So we're squeezing the shoulder blades. So just by keeping the tension in the band all the time, so all the way down, all the way up, squeeze the shoulder blades. All the way down, all the way up, squeeze the shoulder blades. That is going to get a real good squeeze in the upper back that's very difficult to do without any equipment. So you're not actually pulling, but you're holding the tension there with the band, and by keeping tension the whole time and squeezing the shoulder blades, you really do feel that area, which alternatively you would need to be doing pull-ups or pulling on machines to get that same impact. It's a great way to do it with the bands. There's some simple ones. If you create that into a circuit, you'll fill up quite a bit of time of your session just with that one simple band. You don't even need to worry about changing levels. So that's a great starting point with the Dynabands. The playing cards. Remember, I said you don't need to have massive playing cards. You can have individual playing cards. And if you're concerned about transfer of bacteria, then you can get an app on your phone and you could hold that phone. You be in charge of what card comes up next. Or you could go as far as give each individual their own cards, or you are the card master, you just hold the cards. All right. Obviously, we want to try and limit the amount of time we're spending sanitizing and everything else because it stops the flow of the session. Not sure who mentioned that, but one of you definitely mentioned that on the call, and it was a very good point. So it may be for now that you're the card master and you tell people which card, or you ask them to choose a card, and I would limit the number. So maybe you'd have 4 cards and you say which one do you want to choose. Now, what we're going to do, I said this is an idea that I use with my mentees. I've also done it with small groups from schools. It's a good way to break the ice at the beginning of the session, especially once they get used to the idea. So you would let people pick a card, and their card, if I'm doing it for you, you have a red card, which is an ace. So a red is what matters. The ace is irrelevant, but it's red. And if you've got a red card, I would ask you to share with me something positive that's happened in the last 7 days since I saw you last. It can be absolutely anything. It could be that you went up a level on a computer game. It could be that you met up with friends for a walk or lunch. It could be that you've had a birthday. It could be that your dog was ill and now they're not. It could be absolutely anything. It could be that your football team won, netball team won, absolutely anything. That would be that. And we'd go around the room. Each person would have a card. If someone had a black card, we would ask them to share something with us that was a little bit like meh in the last week. Something that wasn't great, you wish it rather, or you'd rather it didn't happen. Maybe it rained when you were supposed to go out with friends. Maybe you lost a key. Maybe you planned to meet up with friends, it got cancelled. Maybe work was tough, school was a challenge. But we want to avoid the language of good and bad. That's something that I think is important when doing this process. People will always say, oh, is black bad and red good? I try and deflect from that and say, no, 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 there's no good or bad. It's just something that you're really pleased it happened, and then something that maybe you'd rather that didn't happen again. And it just gets a little bit of a momentum in the group. It gets people talking, which maybe they wouldn't do normally. And it gets you, if you've got new people, to start to understand a little bit about them. If they reference their dog as a good thing, you know that's a big part of their life. It really helps me when I'm meeting new people. I know with you guys at Talkback, you're seeing the same people regularly with the occasional new person. So maybe it's not quite about learning so much about the person, but more about creating that social interaction that we've all been lacking recently. Once you've done the cards, you can use them in many different ways. You could say that the person that's got that card has to choose an exercise for that colour, or you put them into teams. So everyone that's got a red card goes here, everyone who's got a black card goes here, and as a group, they choose an exercise for their colour. If black have chosen star jumps and red have chosen squats, we then shuffle the pack. We might say we're going to pick 10 cards, depending on the fitness of the group. To do all 52 would be too much. So we might pick 10 cards, lay them down, and then pick them up one at a time, and it would either be star jumps or squats. And you just work your way through star jumps, squats, and so on until you've done all 10 cards. And you might say that they're going to do each exercise for 15, 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, depends on the fitness of your group and how hard you want to push them. But there's a great idea for some cards, and I really do get a lot from doing that little thing at the beginning with people where they just share a little bit of their week with me, and I always take part as well. Sometimes first, sometimes I go last. I just gauge the vibe in the group, and if I feel like they're not really looking too interactive, I will always share my stuff, make myself a little bit more vulnerable first, and then that encourages them to get involved. So that's the cards. There were some other ideas that we threw up about hoops and balls. We also talked about dice. Now, I'm not going to do a really, really long video which covers everything. I mean, I've told you guys, you can get in touch with me in the details below now. Please do use them. Message me on my phone, email me, whatever you want to do, I will get back to you. And we can do something that's specific around you, give you some little tips and advice or answer any questions. But use those details, please, if you feel that anything's missing from this video. I just don't want to repeat the whole webinar that we did on another video. It's not good use of your time. So with the hoops, we talked about how we could step in and out of them. We could go in, we could squat, we could step out, squat, we could go back in, squat, we could step out, squat. So I would have a hoop on the floor and my feet going in and out of it. We talked about stepping in and out, quick feet, side to side. We could do jumping in and out if we've got people with no impact risk. So if they can jump in and out without hurting ankles, knees, hips, backs, then great. That's a brilliant way to do it. So that was some examples on the hoops. We also went on to talk about doing some upper body stuff in the hoops where hands replace feet. So that requires a little bit of core strength, holding plank positions, whether on knees or not, and walking in and out into the hoop, out of the hoop, in, out, but doing it with our upper body. Very challenging, but some of your guys would be up to that, especially the ones that have worked already with Pat, because I know he's pushed those guys quite hard. That's the hoops. With the balls, we talked about balancing exercises. So just having a ball and balancing it on one hand and lifting your foot off the floor is a challenge. Close your eyes, it becomes even harder, okay? We can mix that around. We could have a tennis ball, bounce the tennis ball and do as many star jumps as you can before the ball stops bouncing. See who can do the most before the ball stops bouncing. There's lots of ways you can use a ball and make it fun. Transferring a ball when we've got more freedom to move around is a good one. So we could put 10 tennis balls in a hoop, and you've got to get those tennis balls one at a time into another hoop. There's lots of different games that you can play. I've also done one where we just have a load of tennis balls thrown out in the room, and you have 2 teams, or you could have 3 teams. They all have their own hoop. They have to go and get a ball, put it in the hoop, get another ball, put it in the hoop, blow the whistle, who's got the most balls in their hoop. So really, really great things can come from just being creative, thinking about safety, of course, thinking about the fact that we're limited at the moment with movement, but I'm a positive guy. I'm thinking soon we'll be able to go out and just run around like crazy all over the place. And even then, not that long away until we can do running around and everything in a room. I hope we all get that opportunity real soon. So there's some ideas around balls, hoops, dice. You just choose 6 exercises. Each number on the dice gives you a different exercise. All of this stuff I've mentioned before. It's just variations of the same stuff off the back of the chat we had. Right, summary. So the summary of the wins process. We're talking about W and we're looking at the who, the what, the why. It can be the where, the when. So that's the W. Them sort of questions are what we're asking ourselves when we're first starting to set out the plan. Okay. The I, how can we make it interesting? Got to be interesting. Really important to be interesting, but it also should be inspiring people to do more activity when they finish your session. If they come away from it feeling like, thank God I got through that, I don't have to do it for another week. Us as coaches need to have a look at ourselves and how we can maybe make it better. Could we improve the environment? Sometimes that's out of our control, but we can certainly improve the energy. Maybe the energy wasn't right. Maybe we need to look at who we work with in what way. Maybe communication should be more visual for some people and more verbal for others. You know this stuff better than me when it comes to your audience, but make sure you're bearing in mind that you want to inspire people to do it again, whether that's with you next week or whether that's doing some of the activities on their own. It's really great. I call it dinner table conversations, but going back to when I was first starting out in personal training, most of my marketing worked through word of mouth, and I would try and do that by leaving people with something they'd talk about around the dinner table. Oh my God, when I was with Benson today, we did this new exercise where I had to do this. Even better if they're getting up and showing friends and family and wobbling around and making it fun, because you're starting to impact more people. It's the ripple effect. And by getting that out there further, we can make more people healthy and happy. And more importantly, your guys have that level of self-confidence to start doing things away from a controlled session. So we need to always make sure we encourage them to stay safe and not do anything that can't be done unsupervised. Boxing's a classic. I always tell people not to start practicing that in the streets, but also, yeah, we can encourage people to try some of these things with a ball, with a hoop, with dice, with cards, away from the structured sessions. I think it's good to do that. The N. So what's next? So what is the next stage for this? Do we go faster? Do we go longer? Do we go slower? Remember, slower can be a progression on certain exercises. If you're doing squats and you slow it right down, hold it there, come back up, that's a progression. That's a big progression on just doing this, because the time under tension is more. So sometimes slowing down can be the best progression rather than going faster or doing more. But basically think about what is next. What's the next stage for you in your session? And is everything that you've planned fitting into that? Or is there going to be a massive progression next week that makes people feel uncomfortable and knocks them backwards in confidence? Important. And S, what does success look like? So what would be success? Is it as simple as people are turning up? Is it that this week people have asked to do something you did last week because they enjoyed it? Is it that someone's done 20 minutes this week and last week they only did 10? It's not all about physical appearance and physical results. Sometimes it's the engagement level that really tells the story. So think about what your measurements for success are, and you can have more than one. You can have many different measurements of success, but for the type of environment you're working in and the type of people you're working with, make sure that your success measurements match those people and they're not what the industry tells you is successful, because sometimes they don't align. In fact, most of the time they don't align. So again, get in touch with me here on these contact details if you have any questions. Text message, WhatsApp, phone call, email. I will always get back to you. It might not be instantly, but I will get back to you. Sometimes I'm busy doing videos like this or on calls or whatever, but when I've got a gap, I like to get back to people as quickly as possible. Okay, so please, please, please enjoy your coaching, make the most of it. It's great to be able to offer health and well-being and happiness to people through the work that you do. It's certainly why I do what I do, and I hope that what I've offered to you will help you to do your job with a bigger smile on your face and feel more confident in helping others. Take it easy.